All right, all right. So I want to tell you about how I spent my 4th of July this year. Normally, I go with friends and we have a picnic and we go to a public park and listen to music and see the fireworks from below, and it's spectacular. This year I went to a family friend's house down in Hamburg, right on the shore of the lake, and we watched fireworks from the water. We put our feet in the water and we watched tiny little fireworks displays, and it was incredible. We saw fireworks in Fort Erie in Ontario. We saw fireworks at Canalside in downtown Buffalo, where I might have otherwise been. And we saw fireworks right around the curve at Woodlawn Beach in Hamburg. And if you've ever seen fireworks from a rooftop or from a plane, you know how spectacular that sight is. It's quieter and it's smaller, but it's no less magnificent. And after we got out of the water, we went up to the lawn and we had a bonfire. And as we all tend to get around bonfires, we talked in a very existential way. You know, we were talking about life and art and love and all those intersections the way we get around a fire. It's tribal. And a friend of mine pointed up to the sky and she said, check out the Milky Way. Look at it, it's beautiful. And being the solid C science student that I am, I said, where's the Milky Way? And she pointed out, of course, it was right there. And I hadn't really ever taken a look at it so closely. And the sky was beautiful that night. It was crystal clear. And we all looked at it, and we all sort of just gazed at it. And we saw this cluster of stars. And we saw this belt, right? This movement of energy and of light and all of these little components that make this incredible thing. And my friend said, I have a question. There's something I don't understand about the Milky Way. It's always bothered me. She said, Earth is in the Milky Way. We are in the Milky Way, yet we're pointing to it. We're looking at it. It's way up there in the sky, and it's so far away, farther than we can imagine. How is it possible that we're looking at it and that we're in it? Again, C student here for science. I said, I don't know. But we all sort of, ruffled our chins and tried to come up with something, and I said, I don't know the answer, but I think the answer to your question is in your question. We can't see the whole Milky Way. We can see everything but where we are. I can see everything in this room except for what's on this red dot. So we can see almost all of it, and we can understand most of it, but we don't really have the full picture. And so with that, I'd like to talk today for just a little bit about another galaxy that we are all in at the moment. And it's something that we are privileged to live among and to be a part of and to be stars in. Everyone in here is, because you're here today. And I want to talk about this word Renaissance. It's a word that we've heard today. It's the theme of today. And it's a word that we don't really say about ourselves. It's a word that other people have written about us right now here in Buffalo, that this is an important time in our city, and that things are happening, and that this is not unlike the Renaissances throughout history. And they're right. It's a word, though, that we don't use about ourselves because we're in it, and because we can't see the full picture. So think about the fact that if you've lived here your entire life, maybe, however long that is, or maybe you've lived here for 2 years, or for 2 months, no matter how long you've been here, you can tell that there's change happening, right? You can see that the city looks different. It feels different. The energy is different. People are smiling, right? If you've been here for more than 10 or 15 years, which I'll come back to those numbers later, but if you've lived here for more than 10 or 15 years, you know not everybody smiled before, right? We know our history. We talk about it all the time. We might talk about it too much, in fact. We know our narrative of the last century, of the last 100 years, where this city sort of rose out of its resources on the water, and entrepreneurs and industry people, seized the opportunity that was here, and they created an industry that fed this entire region, and that growth happened because of that. And so it attracted smart people and creative people. It attracted people who had resources because they wanted to come here. And they built this incredible city that we have, right? Whether you live in the city or you come into the city every day, it doesn't really matter. You understand that we have an incredible, beautiful place to live. That's not an accident. That's not just random. You don't see that in other cities. That happened because opportunity met the innovation and the curiosity of what this city could hold. And so we know what happened after that, right? Some people know very firsthand. Some people still live in the neighborhoods where you can feel the fact that there was a downturn. But in the last 10 or 15 years, I come back to those 10, 15 years numbers. The last 10 or 15 years, it feels different. Even the last 2 years, it feels different, right? Streets look a little cleaner. Not every street, not every neighborhood, but some streets and some neighborhoods. It's a place to start. People are smiling. People are working on jobs that they've created. We have buildings that are not only being saved, like this incredible space, but buildings that are being built. If you've read the newspaper in the last 2 months, I certainly hope that you have, then you know that one of the hot topics right now are these cranes, right? Can you imagine that a construction vehicle is, like, for some people, the new hope, right? You can't say that in many other cities because they don't understand how big of a deal that is. We have cranes that are building buildings from the ground up that are adding to our stories, right? We're no longer going to be a 2-story town or a 1-story town. We're going to be a 6 or 7-story town, probably higher. So all this is happening, and all this is really incredible. But we're not alone in this. This has happened throughout history, right? These renaissances throughout history, in France and in Italy and in Harlem not so long ago. What were all those renaissances about, though? Those were all responses to darker times. And we don't have time to go through the whole history lesson, but you understand that those periods of time that roughly have a start date and roughly have an end date, more or less give or take a century, right? They all were responses. They were organic growths out of a period that we understand, which is one of despair, and this is one of desperation, and one with not so much hope. And so you had artists who took to the streets. They couldn't contain their art on a canvas, and so they painted the ceilings of churches. And you had architects and designers who would no longer build small buildings. They would build cathedrals, right? And you had politicians who were rewriting the way that we ruled our land. And you had scientists who were beginning to understand the power of observation. They were people curious about where they lived. They didn't know the answers, though. They didn't know the answers of how they were going to get out of their rut. And we don't know the answers either, which is what I want to convey today. We don't know the answers to how Buffalo is going to look 100 years from now. We won't be here 100 years from now. We talk about 100 years ago all the time, as though we were there. We have a few pictures. We live in the evidence of those times. We're lucky to still have some of those structures and some of that system in place. So our legacy, I hope that we can start to think about, will not only be the things that we make and the products that we create and the stores that we open or the restaurants that we open, because they're going to open and they're going to close. I hope that what we can think about is that we were a version of Buffalo in 2013 that thought so much of itself that we were going to create an attitude, which is an attitude of curiosity. It's an attitude that knew that the answers are not always possible. It's in asking the questions that we find our answers. It is asking the question that is the answer, which is, how can we see ourselves if we're in it? And what are we worth? And how will we be remembered? Those are the things that I would like for our generation, for everybody in this room, to think about when we think about our Renaissance. It will be the things that we produce, and it will be the products that we make, the art that we put in our buildings, and the magazines that we are lucky enough to make. But more so than that, it will be the fact that we are now beginning to ask ourselves, who are we? And what will we be worth to you 100 years from now? Thank you.